I'm from the East Coast. I was born in Florida, and I lived in 8 states up and down the East Coast, because you can have that many states on that coast. And I lived for a lot of my years in Boston. But in my childhood, for a good amount of my childhood, my dad had gotten a job working in New York City in the World Trade Center, and he wanted to find a nice place to raise the kids that was not part of the urban sprawl. So basically we found a place, my folks found a place that was as far west in New Jersey as you would possibly go and still maybe commute to New York City. None of our neighbors commuted that far. My dad had a 2-hour each direction commute. And my mom, we were living in the middle of the woods on the side of a mountain. There was a beautiful lake behind the house and wild things growing out there in the woods, and wild things, I guess, growing in the house too, because that was me and my brother. And my mom was a city girl. She'd grown up in New York City. And, she wasn't much into the country living kind of thing, but she was trying to make the best of it. It took me years, an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that the reason we lived in this place was not because my dad had an easy commute or because my mom particularly liked it. They lived there for the kids, and I was one of those kids, and I thought, okay, I can stop litigating my childhood now. You win. It was a great place to grow up for a few years. We had wild blackberries growing in the woods. My mom used to go out there. I am lucky to come from a long line of home cooks on both sides of my family, so she wanted to make some pie from scratch. And she'd go out there into the woods to collect the blackberries, bring them back into the house and cook them down for her pie. But like I said, she was a city girl, so she would jump into the Volvo station wagon and drive down to ShopRite to buy the crust. She wasn't that committed to the pie from scratch part. But the filling is my favorite part anyway. She would shoo me out of the kitchen. She did not teach me to make pie. But she did teach me to appreciate a good homemade pie. And many years later, when I was living in the woods of Massachusetts at a dance and music retreat, I worked in the kitchen to pay my way to be there and live there all summer long. And that was where I finally learned how to make pie. And so both of those places end up in this song. I was thinking about the humble things that we do, like humble pie. We do them because they have so much meaning as well. This is called Bramble Vine. The blackberries grew in the thicket north of our yard. In summer we'd pick 'em and come home with stickers and thorns in our arms. Some hours later, when supper was plated and served, we'd barely remember the pain for the pleasure that went into making dessert. And some kind of love is like that sweetness buried in a thorny patch. Bramble vine, heat and time, form a heart from the scraps, like making pie from scratch. Well, some kind of love is like that. Someone once showed me the best way to work with the dough. With just a few presses, you crimp down the edges and squeak the old oven door closed. Finding a balance to strike between effort and ease requires some practice, a delicate lattice. You learn it degree by degree. And some kind of love is like that sweetness buried in a thorny patch. Bramble vine, heat and time, form a heart from the scraps, like making pie from scratch. Well, some kind of love is like that. And some kind of love is like that. Sweetness buried in a thorny patch. Bramble vine, heat and time, form a heart from the scraps, like making pie from scratch. Well, some kind of love is like that.